Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome back to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm so glad you're here today. You are in for a treat. You are going to hear from Julie Solomon, who is one of my mentors and one of the world's leading brand strategists, branding coaches, best-selling authors, chart-topping podcast host. And I can't wait for you to meet Julie. I decided to try something new on the podcast, and that is to bring clients that I have been working with that I have seen really transform their lives so that you can meet them and hear a little bit about them. Today, I have one of the most incredible humans on the planet with me, Becca Ray Eagle. Hi, Becca.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I wanted our listeners to hear just a little bit about your experience of working with me. Thank you for being willing to share.
Wonderful. I am smiling ear to ear because Brenda is one of my favorite people on the planet. She has helped me so much in my personal and professional life, and I will always be thankful to you.
Thank you. Thank you. You've done the work.
That's true. But you have the tools. I'm so grateful because before I started working with Brenda, I was completely overwhelmed. I had gone through a pretty difficult couple of months in some career transition due to some health issues, and I was honestly overwhelmed. I was very nervous to share my gifts in new ways, and I was really questioning myself. I was even questioning my faith because I felt like I was defeated. I felt like life was defeating instead of invigorating, and that wasn't a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. And so, what made you decide to work with me?
Well, I had heard your podcast and we recorded together, which was incredible. So we had shared some stories. I felt safe in your space, but then I kept paying attention to the types of things that you were talking about. And I learned to trust your knowledge because people like myself who categorize themselves as sensitive and empaths, and I would say visionaries, people who are sensitive to different gifts in the world, really find the things that you bring to the world empowering. So I found myself safe in the information that you were dispelling about how to work with people who were sensitive, empathic, and wanting to share their gifts in the world. Also, as a person who had experienced personal abuse and trauma, I had respect for the story that you had shared and the ways that you had gotten through it to the other side. And I knew you were my person. I
Mm.
I knew that you had the tools that I needed to be more successful and more comfortable in my own skin.
I love that. Thank you. And since working together, how do you feel now?
I feel more self-aware, I feel embodied, I feel clarity on my calling and the different things that you've taught us to utilize, my personal bill of rights, my ability to set boundaries, how to go within and really value my purpose and my values has been life-changing. I know
Mm.
who I am as a human. You've taught me how to protect my energy. And now I'm coming in from a place of protection within my own truth because you've taught me to do the work and the things that I need to dig into to do that work.
Mm. That's beautiful. So I know that you have experienced a recent success, a really big, tangible success. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about like the overall transformation or outcome of doing the work that you've done.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I feel like I've been prepared for a battle, but a different kind of battle. I felt like over the last few months, you've really helped me to release from a lot of things and settle into a peace in who I am, kind of settling into myself. So I've been more apt to express who I am, and particularly in the form of writing. A couple months ago, I was able to release a self published book. And then this upcoming Friday, I'm a part of a book with Ignite Publishers. It's been so exciting because if you would have asked me a year ago if I would have been able to express myself in this way at such a large level, I would have said you're crazy. So it's just been so exciting to have more confidence with my writing, with the gifts that I feel I've been given, and to share those with the world. I feel like I'm able to share my intuition, my writing, my ability to hold space for other people who want to write. And it's all because of the work that I've been doing. The things that I was scared of to share in public spaces before, I now feel excited to share.
Mm, that's beautiful. Congratulations. This is a big deal.
It's something I've certainly been working hard on for, I would say, since last July. So yes, it's been a labor of love, and there are other people in the book, but I felt confident in my story among their stories
Mhm.
to be a part of it.
Amazing. I love it. So tell us about your self-published book. What's the title and where can we find it?
So the one that I published in January is Embodying Joy, a Heart Journal. It's a memoir with journal space for people who'd like to journal for body, mind, and spirit health. And that is on Amazon.
Beautiful. And the book that is releasing on Friday, June 16th is
Ignite Your Faith. And that is also available on Amazon. That is with Ignite Publishers.
beautiful. I'm just so honored to have walked alongside you in this journey. And the growth that I have seen is so cool. And that word does not really say enough because I have watched you confidently step into being able to offer your story. And to your point, you are holding space for other people in your own groups. And it is so inspiring to watch. It has been an honor to walk alongside you.
Thank you so much for encouraging me to say yes to myself.
You're welcome. So excited for you. And Becca, where can people connect with you?
I have several different ways that I connect with people. I have a journaling podcast where I hold space for writers who would like to journal and to discover their own writing gifts, and that's the Joyful Journaling Podcast. I have a website which is Your Writing Doula, the number 2 day, yourwritingdoulatoday.com. I'm on Instagram also as Your Writing Doula Today, and then on Amazon with my books.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Please go give Becca a follow and check out her books. She didn't tell you this, but she has a lifetime of experience in writing and spent many years as an English teacher. Is that correct?
I did, and I've helped 7 people publish their own books this year.
7 people this year. That is like, I have chills right now. This is so exciting. And to think that when we met, you were just in that crunchy middle, that messy middle that we all experience when we know that we're ready for the next step. We know we're ready for the next thing. What do you think was the most impactful thing that you did or did not do to get you to your yes-filled life?
I would say the most important thing I did is believe in the process because it has been a process. It's not just you say yes and some magic wand appears or that you hold some magical formula.
Mhm.
It's engaging with the work. It's
Mhm.
engaging with the feedback. It's being a part of the community that you've provided where I felt safe to do the work. It's being
Mhm.
engaged in that process.
I love that you say that because there is a process. And, anybody who's done any kind of healing work knows that it's not always neat and tidy and it's not always super comfortable, but it's always worth it.
It is. I always tell people that I'm teaching how to journal to get gritty. And this is a gritty process because when you are dipping into your heart, it's the best process that you can engage with. And that's what you're teaching people how to do. Each
Mm,
person has a beautiful, authentic heart, and it's worth getting gritty with.
yeah, it is. Becca, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Brenda.
Isn't it inspiring to hear what happened for Becca? Transformations are possible for you too. I work with people in 2 ways. I have a one-on-one program called Heal to the Yes, which you can learn more about by going to brendawinkle.com/healing. And I work with people inside a group container called Yes Academy, which you can learn more about by going to brendawinkle.com/yes-academy-course. Now let's get ready to meet our guest today, Julie Solomon, personal branding coach, best-selling author, and chart-topping podcast host of the Influencer podcast. Julie Solomon has been empowering lives for over 15 years through her in-demand classes and masterminds. With a background in public relations for some of the world's most influential music acts and thought leaders, Julie launched her online courses and coaching mastermind in 2016, mentoring thousands of leaders and creatives around the world. Her passion is helping women turn messages into movements and empowering entrepreneurs and creatives to successfully grow, build, and scale their businesses. Recently named one of the top 100 leaders in influencer marketing, Julie and her work has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Business Weekly, Business Insider, Success, and People, among others. She is the author of the best-selling book, Get What You Want: How to Go from Unseen to Unstoppable. Julie is not just a guest on the podcast. She is also one of my mentors. I have been working with her inside her Lux program for the past 6 months. And I have to tell you from firsthand experience that Julie is one of the most talented and skilled business coaches in the business. And it is such an honor for me to introduce her to you today. Let's dive into this conversation. Hi, Julie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the podcast. It really means a lot.
Oh, well, you mean a lot to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You came into my life in an unexpected way at a mastermind retreat, and I felt this soul connection the moment I locked eyes with you. And then you helped me distill down something that I'd been kind of swirling around, and you just made it so easy. And I'm so grateful.
I know I remember that day. It was what a magical day that was. Magical, magical day with our beloved Kathy Heller, who I love so much.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a magical, magical day. So yeah, I know it brought us together, which is really nice.
It was really nice. And your story is so relatable and so inspiring. And in case my listeners don't know your background, would you mind just sharing a little bit of your story, who you are, what you do?
Yeah. So, my name is Julie Solomon. I am an online business coach. I'm also an author and a podcaster and a creator and a mom and all the things. But mostly, I get to live out my passion, my purpose every day by serving other women and supporting them and living out theirs, which is like the greatest, coolest job in the world. I love doing what I get to do. I started my business career in PR and publicity, and then got into the online space back in 2016 as an online educator and course creator. And then that, of course, expanded into coaching, which is a lot of what I do now. And that was kind of the business path. But of course, it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies. And it took a
Mhm.
lot of redirections and turns and twists to get here. When I first started on my journey in the online space, I had really kind of had a rock bottom moment with money shortly before that, about a year before that. And I was already online creating content and things like that, but before I really started the business that I have now. And it was that catalyst of, um, a really intense money situation, which I talk about in the book, where Brenda knows the story,
Mhm.
but where I had been hiding and acquiring a lot of credit card debt, and I was hiding it from everyone and my husband. And my husband found out, and of course, he called me out on it. And that moment of having to come to terms not only with all of the financial struggle and heartache that I had just gotten myself into, but the emotional toll that took, and really why I was in that position and what had led me there. And so it was a financial rock bottom moment that then turned into an emotional rock bottom moment, and then
Mhm.
set me on a path of self discovery and a lot of inner work. And it was from that path that I really was able to root into my calling and my purpose, which is what I now do. And so that's really where I think my real work started. Even though I had had years of experience as a publicist and in marketing, my real work started when I had, that moment and that shift happen in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. And, I just want to reflect back to you that this idea that we have to have it all figured out is sometimes what we hold ourselves to. And I love that you shared that this came from like your success, your empire, your brand, the way that you're able to show up fully to help other women find their freedom came from a rock bottom moment.
Yeah. I think most of our most freeing moments come from rock bottom moments, at least from my experience. I mean,
Mine too.
maybe I'm just crazy, but yeah, I mean, I feel like, when we hit a bottom, no matter how bottom that is, it reveals to you the hard truths. And even though they may be hard, they're truth. And
Mhm.
I think it begins the anew. And it's in those moments that we really do get to decide, do we want to set ourselves free or not? And
Mhm.
so that's why I really embrace a rock bottom moment. I think that if you're lucky enough to have one, give yourself the dignity of having one. If you know someone who could have one, get out of the way so they can have one. I think that's another thing, a lot of the enabling that we can do with good
Yes.
intentions, of course, because
Mhm.
we're like, well, we don't want this person to suffer. Or we see this person ruining their life. And if they would just listen to me. But sometimes, I love to remember, I'm like, well, what about all of those beautiful moments? And not just moments, but beautiful life-changing moments that I have had from someone not saving me. And I
Mhm.
think that that's a big takeaway for me. And all of that was that the day that I truly realized that no one was coming to save me was the day that I really allowed myself to be free. I set myself free in that moment.
Mhm.
And with that came a lot of radical responsibility and accountability. But I think that that's a huge one. I'm a firm believer in support and guidance. We all need it. But the more that we can accept, the more that we can be aware of that and really accept the fact that no one is coming to save us is truly the day that I think our life starts.
Mhm.
And it's a powerful thing.
I love everything that you just said. And the first time I heard you say, when you see somebody getting ready for a rock bottom moment, get out of the way, I laughed out loud because it's so relatable and it's so contrary to the way that we're socialized. And, there takes a lot of courage to let someone have their own experience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just love that. It's so empowering.
Yeah, because I think, a lot of us are just raised to be pleasers, to be helpers, to be fixers, it's that's mean to do that. Why wouldn't you help someone in need? But sometimes the best thing that you can do for someone in need is to let them, have the dignity of their own experience and have the dignity of them finding,
Mhm.
what it is that they need to discover. Because really, at the end of the day, Brenda, we don't know what's best for other people. We may have really good ideas and we may think that we know, and maybe even someone finds what we have to share useful and impactful,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that we know it's best for them. And I think that that's a big piece to giving that person the dignity to hit their own bottom and have that experience.
Mhm. I totally agree with that. I often say to my own clients, you are your highest authority, and
Mhm.
no one knows what's better for you or best for you than you.
Mm. That's true.
Your story about um, having the credit card debt and coming back. I mean, not only did you pay off the credit card debt, but you've built this beautiful company that truly nurtures other people. And you've written this book. Um, and I know that you had a money story and you were able to change your money story. And a lot of the people that I talk to that are in my ecosystem that are thinking about being clients or clients also have money stories. And the way that you changed yours, I just feel so personally inspired by. And I wondered if you could talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the word that you used was so perfect because you talked about, the word nurture and nurturing. And I think that, um, the only way that I was able to really nurture other people was to nurture myself. The only way that I was able to kind of heal my relationship with money, as much as I've been able to this point, there's still always a next level, but was really leaning into that idea of nurturing, because money is meant to be nurturing and
Mhm.
sustainable and used to, not only survive but to thrive, I think. And so
Mhm.
I love that you use that word because I think it's a great word to kind of kick off answering this question. um, I don't think that we can really heal ourselves from anything until we understand what it means to nurture ourselves and what we all need individually in order to be nurtured and cared for. And so for me, that was nurturing meant reclaiming my belief of worthiness, my
Mhm.
belief of belonging. Nurturing also meant really rooting into my power and not being ashamed of that. Um, I think a lot of us are taught to believe that power is this mean, horrible, ultra masculine, gross thing that is just used to manipulate people. And it can be,
Mhm.
it can be, but it can also be a very God centered and God given and God sourced, thing. I think the more that we root into our power, the more that we are connected to higher source and higher power. That's
Mhm.
really where it comes from. God, source, universe, whatever you say. I kind of interchange them all. But that to me was really starting to get clear, the clarity of, what is my power and how do I start rooting into my power and how do I not waste my power in this
Mhm.
lifetime and how do I really live it out? And that was getting really clear on my why. That was a big thing. I had hit my rock bottom. I quickly discovered that my problem was far less financial than it was emotional. I knew that I needed support in unpacking that. And so that meant therapy. It meant life coaching. It meant for me, it meant getting into a 12-step recovery group and working the steps and getting a sponsor and really starting to understand myself in a much deeper psychological way, and really just understanding the psychology of human beings and why we believe the things that we do and why we respond the way that we respond, and really keeping the focus on myself in that. And so from that, it gave me a better understanding of myself. It allowed me to nurture myself in a new way. It allowed me to let go of a lot of the perfectionism and guilt and shame that I was carrying. It taught me how to go easier on myself. And this all came through, really, I want to say probably about a year and a half of a lot of deep work with therapists and life coaches, and then also reading books and meditating and just getting into my own self-care. And then just deepening those concepts over time. I feel like it's definitely a lifelong journey. I don't think that it ever goes away. But that's really what helped me. And this other too, this idea, and I've talked about it, and you've probably heard me talk about this, Brenda, but really starting to redefine what my self-concept was around a multitude of things, around money, around power, around leadership, around creativity, around motherhood, around, everything that I am as a being. And so we'll take it, for this example, we'll take it under the confines of money since we're talking about that. But I had to really start understanding what my self-concept around money was. You can either have a poor self-concept about things, or you can have a strong self-concept about things. And my self-concept around money was really poor. And what happens with self-concept is basically we kind of have a breadth of, we'll never allow ourselves to be, with money, to make 10% more or 10% less than what our self-concept is of that. So for example, if I thought that I was only worthy of making $50,000 a year, and even if this was subconscious, because I was very unconscious to this, I did not understand that this is how I believed, therefore these are the patterns that I was creating. But my self-concept about money was so low that it kept me in this cycle of debt. It, even if I could make money, I would spend it faster than I could make it. Or if I wasn't making enough, I would find myself like in these scrambling behaviors where I would have to hustle and I would have to figure out how to make the money. And, I was constantly in this like swing back and forth of this poor self-concept. And I would have these moments, right, where I would find my happy medium and I could like kind of chill there. But then before I knew it, I either wasn't making enough, or I might have made a little bit more than the self-concept. And then I would go back into those patterns. And so it wasn't until becoming aware of that and really starting to understand how this played a role in my entire life, not just with money, but it could be your self-concept of happiness, of worthiness, of whatever it may be for you. But this is what causes us to hit upper limits. And that was a big upper limit for me. I realized that I would subconsciously put myself into these situations where I would either go in debt or I would overspend as a way to keep control, as a way to then have to hustle to get out of it. It was like this addictive kind of game that I would play, and I completely was unaware of it. But once I started to do the work on myself and became aware of that, then I could then start to take the steps little by little to get myself out of that. And so what helped me raise my self-concept over time, again, was that nurturing piece, nurturing myself through more confidence, nurturing myself through trial and error. If there was some error, I would go easy on myself, allowing myself to, take risks, to be creative, to be flexible, and to really create goals that were a reach, but then also something that I was excited enough to do everything in my power to try to attain and get there. And so that's really how I was able to kind of unpack that and get through it.
I love that. Thank you. And one of the things that stands out to me so much in all of this is this continual leaning on nurturing. Because if we hate ourselves or we hate our behaviors or we hate our situation, then it's very heavy and it
Yeah.
feels gross and it's
Yeah.
not motivating at all to change because we're having to look at something that we hate.
Right.
And so it's only by tuning into that nurturance and learning to love yourself and treat yourself lovingly and maybe even speak to yourself lovingly
Oh
that
yeah.
that change is
Affirmations are
possible.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a strong believer in that. At this time in my life, I read Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. I did morning pages. I love Oracle decks, and so and I still use Oracle decks, but I would be constantly flipping cards and just because it's all affirming. It's all just a mirror to remind you what you already know inside your soul. But it's good to have those reminders, and I think affirmations are incredible, no matter, especially if you feel a lack of confidence in something. And when it came to money, that was a big one for me. And so I would have to have these affirmations about, being worthy of money, being capable of making money, of making the kind of money that I wanted to without even having a reason. And I
Hmm.
think that that's also a really important piece. My book is titled Get What You Want. And I think it's really important for people to know that you can want what you want and get what you want for no reason other than just wanting it.
Hmm.
And that alone is enough, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to have this massive reason for wanting something, for desiring something, for wanting a situation to be different or to be bettered. And so I think that that was a big thing for me as well. It just gave me permission for so much more expansion in my life,
Hmm.
and so much more abundance. And so it really does come to that. And to me, that's also a very nurturing thing as well. And so I would do those things. I would do the affirmations, and I would journal, and it really, really does help. I'm really good at making money. I'm really good at sales. People love to buy from me. I mean, whatever it may be that you need to tell yourself, to hype yourself up. It's true. And I was actually just listening to Jessica Alba, who's the founder of Honest Company.
Hmm.
And she was talking about on a podcast how I think it was either her daughter or her niece had to do a science project in class in middle school. And she had two plants, and they were the exact same plant, that got the exact same soil, that were nurtured the same way with the exact same sunlight and the exact same water. But for 4 weeks straight, she would affirm one of the plants,
Hmm.
and then she would talk bad to the other one. And the one that was getting the negative talk and the negative responses to literally died. And
Hmm.
then the ones that the plant that she was affirming literally grew. And this is a plant.
Right. Imagine
So
how much more impactful this is for a human.
for a human. And so it really just goes to show how powerful our belief is, our belief
Hmm.
systems are, how powerful our beliefs are, how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our words are, and how powerful affirmations can be.
Absolutely. So I've heard affirmations taught a lot of different ways. One that I often lean on is what will it feel like when,
Mm,
or something similar. I'm curious
mm.
how the affirmations showed up for you. What was most impactful?
I love the one, and I think this came from Abraham Hicks. Wouldn't it be great if?
I love that.
Yeah. Wouldn't
I
it be
love,
great if? And then
yeah.
it's just fill in the blank. And
Hmm.
then after that, after I would answer that question, so wouldn't it be great if I, got to travel to Europe this summer?
Hmm.
Wouldn't that be great? And then the next question is, okay, what would that take? Because then that allows me to put it into action.
Yes. Yes. You are the perfect mix of energy and strategy and action. And I just so appreciate that about you because you come in with this beautiful heart centered energy. And then you also have the strategy and action steps to get some of the things into motion, which is what a lot of us really need.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of us do. I mean, even myself, it's so easy just to get sidetracked, and it's, I think we balance, or we try to balance that a lot within each and every one of us. We've got our beautiful feminine flow that is the magic and the essence and the woo and the energy, and then we've
Hmm.
got this masculine that is the doing and the action taking and the strategy. And I really do feel like the more that we could try to root into both, just the more whole that we are. And sometimes it's challenging. It's challenging to do that. Sometimes for me, it's a lot easier just to sit in the feminine and
Mhm.
just be. And then other times it's
Mhm.
so much easier for me just to stay in the masculine and just be super heady. But I do feel out of alignment when I'm either or. The only time
Mhm.
that I really feel whole and in my highest self is when I can try my best, or not even try my best, just show up in the best way that I can with both ends of those coins.
I love that. I love that. And you make it seem so easy to be in balance. I definitely resonate with what you say about feeling like I'm in my most embodied self when I'm in the balance of the masculine and the feminine, the action and the being. And I wonder, do you have any practices daily that you use to help you find that balance?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and it's one that I'll just give you a really recent example. I just got I go to a natural holistic integrative wellness amazing woman nurse for integrative work, and I got some blood work back, and all in all everything was like fantastic for the most part. Need some more vitamin D and things like that, but
Mhm.
we're what we've got working with, we're doing good, except for my testosterone. It is grossly low, like
Mm.
shockingly low. And she's like, well, no wonder why you may not have a ton of energy, throughout the day. And no wonder why you may have to do this and that. And so um just back to basics, I was like, okay, so how do I get, naturally, because I really don't want to have to like get on a cream for the rest of my life if I don't have to. Like, what are ways that I could try to, enhance this naturally? And she said, well, one of the things is working out and resistance training. And if you can
Mm.
do that. And so I was like, oh, I really don't want to do really don't want, like, can I just go on my walks in nature? Like, isn't that enough? And she's like, well, cardiovascularly, you're doing great. And so that's one of the things that, to kind of answer your question, that's one of the things that I will do now. It's like if I need to feel more focused and have more energy and more alertness, I know that I need to exude a certain amount of energy to get those endorphins going and to get that testosterone up. And so maybe I'll go take, a Pilates class that has a little bit higher resistance to it. Maybe I'll have to go and do some weight training, even though that's like the last thing that I want to do. I know that it's the healthiest thing for me.
Mhm.
And then there's times that no matter what may be happening with my testosterone, I may just feel so in my masculine, and I just need to like root into my feminine. And so some of the things that I will then do, at least for me, nothing gets me in my feminine as much as taking care of my children and just
Mhm.
being there for my children. So I will do that. We will sing, we will dance, we will laugh. Walking in nature is like, you know, Mother Earth to me is like the biggest healer and remedy of all. And that just kind of really centers me and balances me. Vitamin D and getting as much natural sunlight as I possibly can, I think is huge. Another way that I try to balance the masculine to the feminine. And again, this isn't necessarily like what I'm saying is like, well, meditate and do this. Yes, do all of those things,
Mhm.
but practical. I try to get a good amount of protein in my diet a day. I've seen a big difference between when, and even if, plant-based protein or animal protein, whatever your preference is, just sometimes when I'm not feeling as focused and have a lot of energy, when I'm not feeling in my masculine, it's like, oh, haven't really had a lot of protein
Mhm.
today. So maybe I'll make a protein shake, and then that will kind of boost it up. And so I try to look at ways, not only emotionally, but really tangible things that I can do externally to really help with that. And so that's some of the things that I've learned along the way that have helped me.
I love that. I love everything about that. And I like that it's so tangible because I think for many of us, we think that it's got to be some energetic woo. And yes, there's
Ethereal.
a place for that.
Right.
Absolutely. But a lot of times it's so much more practical and a lot more linear than we would like to believe.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And I had a friend of mine who's in the wellness space tell me that. She goes, Julie, it is crazy how much your life can change if you just get some sunlight, drink a lot of water,
Mm-hmm.
and just get some really good whole protein in your system. And I was like, oh, because I was over here like thinking I was gonna have to manifest this whole big thing. And she's like, no, just like go make a protein shake. You'll be fine.
Yeah. And go outside, take a walk,
And
drink
go
some water.
outside, take a walk.
I
So
love that. That's
yeah.
amazing. So your book I read after I met you. And after having heard you speak and been in your space, I could imagine you were there reading it to me. I could hear the cadence of your words and the cadence of your speech. And I absolutely loved it. And I found it so helpful and really actionable. And I wondered if you might tell our listeners a little bit about your book.
Yes. My book, Get What You Want, How to Go from Unseen to Unstoppable, is I think a very practical yet deep guide into my story, as well as tangible steps into getting what you want. And I kick it off by sharing with the readers a time in my life when I didn't have what I wanted, and then the things that had to happen in order for me to see my part to play in that, and
Mhm.
then how I practically picked up the pieces and then put them together to then move forward to get what I wanted in life. And the reason why I wanted to write this book and have a title like this is because um not only do I believe it's possible, but I think a lot of times when, women will say to me, I can't get what I want because I don't know what I want, or I can't get what I want because it's not possible for me, or, whatever the excuses are. And I think it's important just to remember that getting what we want a lot of times is a choice,
Mhm.
because we really do get to choose the beliefs as adults that we have. We may not get to choose them as children, but once we're adults, we get to choose those beliefs. And if we are aware enough of our beliefs and our thoughts and conscious enough of how we're showing up in the world, then we can make different choices.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a really important piece to it. Because when you're not aware of that, that is when, from my own experience, I think people can either start to just tap out and get really numb and want to avoid,
Mhm.
or what I feel is worse is they start to get really resentful, and they fall way too deep into the victim trap, which I've been in, and we've
Mhm.
all been there.
Right.
And it's really, really hard to see a way out once you're in that, because beneath that is hopelessness and helplessness.
Mhm.
And that's when you really got to, outreach and get some support and get some help, because that's a dark, 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 dark hole that we can all fall into. And so possibility is where the light is. That's where
Mhm.
I like to stay and not, lose sight of that. And just reminding people that it's possible. You know, if you don't think you know what you want, I think we always do, because I think we always know what we don't want.
Mhm.
And if we don't think that it's possible for us, I think that we all have evidence of how it is possible. It's just what we choose to look at or see, or really believe. And I had someone, say to me several months ago, they were like, Julie, some people just don't get what they want, and that's okay. And I said, well, you're right. There are some people in life that don't get what they want, but you get to decide, are you going to be some people?
Mm. I love that.
And that's really, again, it goes back to that choice. And that's just my lens of the world. That's my perspective of the world. I talk a lot about my origin story in the book, and how I've been able to see from this lens, because it wasn't always this way. And I didn't
Mhm.
come from a family that, had it all figured out or anything like that. But I do very much so believe in the power of possibility and the power of choice.
I do too. I absolutely do too. One of the things that I hear people say a lot, both just like in social circles as well as people when they first start working with me, and I heard you mention this today in our call, is related to how to pick the one thing.
Mm.
And so I find that people often want all the things, and I don't think that that's necessarily a problem. But if you try to move forward towards all of the things, sometimes it can water things down a little bit. And you spoke so well about choosing the one thing, whether it's a one offer or something. I wondered if you could riff on that.
Yeah. So, when we'll talk about it in the context of like creating, a value or offer to somebody. Let's say that you're a coach or you're an entrepreneur and you're like, okay, I have this idea. I want to create this thing. I want to be able to sell it. The thing that I really love to remind myself and to other people about when it comes to this is that we have to make sure that we're very aware of the fact that there is never going to be a lack of idea that we're going to have ideas or things that we want to do or things that we
Mhm.
want to create or things that we can do. But that also creates a lot of complexity. And we humans are complex people. Like there's never going to be a day that we're not going to have new ideas to create. And so in order for, at least in my experience, to simplify, we have to focus down on like 1 to 2 things, like primary thing. And then the rest just kind of go into like a holding tank. It doesn't mean that they can't be pulled out at a later time.
Mhm.
Because if you allow yourself to do that, then you're going to be able to expand a lot faster. I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to either expand too soon by trying to take a bunch of different ideas and put them out. They'll try to create a bunch of different offers, or they'll be focusing on this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And it just creates so much complexity
Mhm.
because it actually strips you of your focus. And then there's no ability to really hone in and figure out, okay, what's working and what's not working, what's really lighting me up and what's a drain. And so you have to really get clear on what that is for you. And that takes discipline.
Mhm.
And it's so important to be disciplined in your work. And I think, especially for creative beings, a lot of times people think that discipline is very limiting or constraining to their creativity and to their vision. But in fact, the opposite is true. It's the discipline that gives us creative freedom. It's
Mhm.
discipline that gives us play and experiment and the ability to take risks. Because if your business doesn't have discipline, then you don't have the ability to be creative in your work in the way that you think that you do. And you also don't have the freedom from an energetic place, from an emotional place, from a mental place, and most importantly, what I see, from a financial place. You don't have the freedom, so you can then go and do the other things that are in the think tank that you want to do.
Mhm.
And so to me, it's really about the discipline to allow yourself to not only start, but like get off that starting block and go to the next steps. Um, Most people don't ever really give themselves permission to like really see something through. And I think a lot of that, again, comes down to lack of patience, which
Mhm.
is where the discipline comes in as well. And so I think that that's where I see most people get stuck, especially, women that, um, you know, and I say like we've all kind of had this past life, if you will, of like corporate America or agency life or this thing that we used to do,
Mhm.
and now we're transitioning to this thing, and so we're all credible. We all have the experience. We all know what we're doing, but we're not able to scale it and to really create the impact that we're wanting to create from it. And most of the time, it comes down to that discipline, because once you allow yourself to be disciplined, then everything that's already available to you, maybe it's the processes, the systems, the coaching, the support, whatever it is, none of it's really going to be able to work until you allow yourself that discipline. And
Mm.
once you do, then all of that support that you're calling in and that you're wanting is actually going to be able to work a lot better for you.
It makes so much sense. And I totally am guilty of, in fact, trying to do too many offers too many things. And I was thinking to myself the same thing that you described, which is that, oh, I'll try all these things. But what I'm finding is that when I'm focused on one offer, I'm actually getting better at that one offer.
Right. Right. And that's what happens when we do something over and over and over and over again. And, Brenda, you and I have talked about that when it comes to, selling. Like, how do you sell yourself? How do you get confidence to sell yourself? How do you know what to say? How do you know if it's going to land? Like, how do you not feel awkward? And it's like, you do. You do feel all of those things, and all of those things are true, but it does dissipate over time once you do it over and over and over and over again. And of course, it's always great to have a template and a mirror and, something that's comparable. Like I love things like that to be able to use as inspiration and as support, but really it comes with just the protocol of diving in and taking the action.
And, there's a vulnerability that's present too, because when you decide this is the one thing I'm going to do, there's risk emotionally, and I think that there's some courage required there.
Oh, it's
And
all courage.
yeah, for sure.
Like, that's all confidence is just courage. That's it.
Willingness to try. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And you make it look so effortless. And I just appreciate that about you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It does not feel like that some days back here, but I really I just try to do today, and that helps me.
I think that that's a really good way to look at things. Try to do today. Yeah. Try to be better today. I so appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
So I have 5 questions just for fun.
Yeah.
Just as we get ready to wrap things up. The first one is, what is in your morning mug?
What is in my morning mug is either matcha latte or an oolong tea. And that's really it right now.
I love that.
Those 2 things. Yeah.
Excellent.
Maybe some hot water with lemon sometimes too.
Sometimes I do that too.
Yeah.
I'm a coffee girl, so I often start with coffee and then shift to tea mid-morning.
Yeah, that's good too. I know I go through waves. I've been on this tea kick for the last several months. But if I'm like meeting a friend for breakfast or coffee, then I'll have a coffee. But at my house, it's just like tea.
I love that. It's all about the place and the routine. Yes. Amazing. Is there a song that you love that every time you hear it, you're just like, yes, this is amazing. I feel so good.
So many songs. There's one song by the Doobie Brothers. Listen to the music. It is just like the happiest. Like whenever it comes on, like the beginning of like the guitar, I'm just like, you just want to like roll your windows down on a sunny day. And yeah, it's a great song. I'm like a 70s girl. So yeah.
I love that song. And as soon as you said it, I heard the chorus.
Yes.
In my mind.
It's so good.
That's amazing. Is there a podcast that you are loving that you would recommend? I mean, aside from the influencer podcast, which people should definitely check out.
Well, thank you. This is another thing that I will go into waves with. Last year, I was listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and it was actually a beautiful way to start my morning. I would just dive into, there's some various podcasts that will air her recordings of her talks that she's done. Recently, though, I have been listening to one marketing podcast in particular, by a woman named Emily Hirsch, who is an ad strategist, and she's amazing. I'll go like in and out. Like sometimes I want, again, the masculine and the feminine. Sometimes I want the strategy, and sometimes it's like, I can't take anymore. So, when I need like a good, quick, idea on something, I love to listen to her podcast. It's amazing. And then more so though, I've been listening to audiobooks lately. So any audiobook, I just finished the audiobook. It's an old book, but The Science of Getting Rich.
Oh, that's a good one.
So yeah, that one was really, really good. And then I just started one by Daniel Pink, who's actually one of my favorite authors. He wrote the book To Sell is Human. Fantastic book if no one's ever read it or listened to it, but I'm listening to another one of his books now.
I love audiobooks.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We used to take road trips, my daughter and I, across the country. And this was before MP3 players came around, and we would check out the whole audiobook and CD from the
Yes.
library
Yeah.
and take it on the road trips. It was so fun.
Yeah. My mom used to do books on tape. And so we would, she was a sales rep. And so she would have to travel to, all these places around the state, and she would listen to the books on tape. And there were some that were kid appropriate that I could listen to. And it was, she would listen to like scary, fiction novels and things like that. But yeah, it was fun.
Oh, that's so good. Who inspires you?
Gosh, so many people inspire me. I mean, my clients inspire me probably the most, and you're one of them. I'm so inspired by just my client and my communities, their willingness to show up, their courage, their curiosity. I feel so lucky to be able to work with the women that I get to work with. And the reason why I feel so grateful and so lucky is that there's been times in my career that I haven't felt that way, that I've actually felt quite the opposite. I felt very depleted and exhausted, and, a lot of things, which a lot of that had to do obviously, with myself too. And I guess there was something to be learned about that energy and what was happening at that time. But, in this now moment, like I feel so inspired and grateful to be in their energy and in their presence, and to be not only their mentor, but just to be someone along their path with them on this journey. It's a really, really magical thing.
I love that answer. Personally, I love that answer. And I also love that answer just here in the podcast. And before I ask you my last question, I'd love for you to tell us how we can find you and connect.
Yes. So you've mentioned my podcast, the Influencer Podcast. So that's wherever you love to listen to podcasts, you can find it. I've had that podcast for 6 years now, which is just crazy. And I've been consistently airing episodes since 2017. So there's well over 600 episodes on there now to dive into. Anything and everything that covers marketing and branding that you would want to know. And then Instagram is where I tend to hang out the most and provide content there. So I'm at Jules Solomon. And then, of course, my book, you can get it wherever books are sold, or wherever audiobooks are sold. It's on Audible as well. And then my website, juliesolomon.net.
Beautiful. And I'll link all of those in the show notes. And the last question I have for you is, if you find yourself in a funk, feeling scared, sad, mad, what do you do to flip the switch and access joy?
Yes, this is such a great question. I really do think that we set the tone in everything that we do, and that we have the power to change the script. And when we change the script changes, which is amazing. So, one of my kind of tools, if you will, for setting the tone is that if I'm having a really crappy day like that, I will restart the day and start the day again. And so I'll just say to myself, like, even if it's noon, I'm like, can I restart this day? Or like, even if it's me and my husband and we're just kind of like, I'm like, can we restart today? And we'll just literally like reset it as if it's the morning. We're waking up. None of that matters or happened. Whatever happened 5 minutes ago was yesterday, and we restart the day. And so that really helps me reframe. Shifts in my environment also do. So if I will go outside again, get in nature, get some vitamin D, walk it off, that really, really helps me a lot. I love to take my walks and go on my trails. So that really, really helps. Moving my body in some kind of way. So if that's, I'll go in waves like we've talked about if I enjoy working out or not, but I do always feel better when I do it. Spending time with my kids and just being of service to other people, because it takes the focus, the negative focus or whatever that focus is on me, where I'm being really hard on myself, and it puts me in a place of being of service, which always makes me feel better. So those are the things that I really like to do.
Thank you. Julie, thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Brenda. I love spending time with you.
I love spending time with you. I reached out to Julie to ask her the final question of your yes filled life. And that is, what is one thing you did or didn't do that led to you living your yes filled life? And Julie's answer was, I took radical responsibility to create the life I've always wanted. Do you ever feel like a sponge absorbing energy and emotions from people around you? Or maybe you feel like you walk on eggshells. Does setting boundaries feel tricky in certain relationships in your life? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you into my free masterclass, 3 ways to take on fewer emotions and moods of other people. Join me on Wednesday, June 28th at 9 a.m. Pacific. You can register by going to the link in the show notes or go to brendawinkle.com/3-ways. I hope to see you there. Here are the takeaways. When we hit a rock bottom, the hard truths are revealed. It's in those moments we get to decide if we want to set ourselves free or not. Julie says, if you know someone headed to a rock bottom moment, get out of the way. Some of those moments where we realize that no one is coming to rescue us are the moments we accept and embrace our own personal responsibility and accountability. The day you take responsibility for your life is the day your life really starts. Number 2, we can't heal ourselves from anything until we understand what it means to nurture ourselves. This will look different for everyone. Get the support you need, whether that means coaches, therapists, books, or meditations. It's likely a lifelong journey. Number 3, your self-concept is what's behind your upper limits. This can be in relationships, to your identity, your finances, your success, etc. You can raise your self-confidence by giving yourself compassion, allowing yourself to take risks, being creative, and by being flexible. Create goals that are in reach but are also achievable. Number 4, you don't need a massive reason why you want what you want. It's okay to simply want it. Massive expansion can be the result of being self-compassionate with yourself. Using affirmations can be very supportive as you create the internal changes you're seeking. Remember Julie's story about the plants. What you think and say to yourself really matters. Number 5, ask yourself, wouldn't it be great if? And then ask yourself, what would it take? Number 6, balancing our feminine energy with our masculine energy can help us be more whole. Feminine energy is the being, receptivity, creativity, and quote, the woo, end quote. Masculine energy is the action, the doing, and the strategy. The balance can be approached emotionally and externally. Number 7, it's important to remember that getting what we want is a choice. We do get to choose the beliefs that we have as adults. If we are aware enough of our beliefs and thoughts, we can make different choices. Possibility is where the light is. Number 8, some people don't get what they want in life, and you get to decide if you are some people. There is so much power in possibility and choice in choosing what you choose to focus on. And number 9, there will never be a lack of ideas. It can create complexity because we are complex. To expand, it's important to simplify, focus down on 1 to 2 primary things, and the rest go into a holding tank until later. This will help you expand a lot faster. It will help you get clear on what's working for you. And number 10, it's all courage. If you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, I invite you to do that now. There's so many juicy episodes coming up. And I invite you, if you loved this episode especially, to give the podcast a rating and a review. The more ratings and reviews a podcast has, the more likely it is to show up in the feed of someone who really needs it. And let's face it, we all need a little more yes in our lives, where we learn to say no to the good so we can say yes to the great. Bye for now. Until next time.